Hi, I'm Andy McGrogan, Chief of the Medicine Hat Police Service, and I'd like to take this opportunity to share some information with you that is quite timely and topical. I'd like to talk to you today about the complex issue of police officer discipline. I'm going to pose 7 questions that I've collected and respond to each. My goal is to provide you with the information you need to form views and opinions based on the best information possible. So here we go. So the first question is, what kinds of police discipline processes are there, and what is the Chief's role in those processes? Police officers face 2 different and distinct processes as it relates to police discipline. Just like any other citizen, police officers are accountable through the criminal justice system. They're also accountable under the provisions of the Alberta Police Act. These are 2 independent processes which can both apply. While I'm responsible for the Police Act process being followed, I have absolutely no influence on the criminal process. So the second question is, what types of police misconduct are covered by the Police Act? The Police Act and an accompanying police service regulation sets out, amongst other things, 9 different types of misconduct ranging from breach of confidence to unlawful or unnecessary exercise of authority. These are defined very broadly and encompass a wide range of actions that can constitute misconduct. An officer found guilty of misconduct under the provisions of the Police Act face sanctions that can range anywhere from reprimand to dismissal. So question number 3, how do I determine when the criminal process applies? Well, the Police Act directs when an officer's conduct needs to be referred to the Alberta Justice for investigation or review. Where conduct may constitute a criminal offense, the matter is referred to the Alberta Justice Prosecution Service for their review and opinion on whether any criminal charges should be laid. In cases where serious injury or death is involved, or where the matter is otherwise serious or sensitive in nature, Alberta Justice has to be notified, and they provide direction on further investigational steps. Question 4. If a criminal charge is laid against a police officer, what happens to the Police Act process? Well, the Police Act process is put on hold until the criminal process is concluded. Many of the procedures and evidentiary laws relating to criminal proceedings are different than those that apply to Police Act proceedings. Also, the criminal proceedings may bring out information or evidence that is important to the Police Act process. At the conclusion of the criminal process, the Police Act investigation then proceeds. The purpose of the Police Act investigation is to gather and examine all available information to determine if a police officer's actions or behavior constitute misconduct as defined in the Act. Question number 5, what happens when a police officer is found guilty of a criminal offense? Once again, the Police Act sets out the procedure that I have to follow, and includes 4 stages. 1, I direct any further investigation to determine whether any of the officer's actions constitute misconduct. 2, determine whether at any point the officer should be relieved from duty with or without pay. 3 is determine whether a hearing should be held. And lastly, consider what sanction may be appropriate. The seriousness of a criminal offense is an important factor in determining an appropriate sanction. For example, the finding of guilty by the court of a more serious offense like aggravated assault would result in a conviction and a more serious sanction. Yet a less serious offense, such as common assault, may lead to a conviction and warrant a less serious sanction, or may lead to a discharge. So question 6, what is the process for deciding whether an officer should be relieved from duty? I am authorized by the Police Act to relieve an officer from duty with or without pay in certain circumstances. Relief from duty can only be imposed for administrative purposes and not for punitive purposes. Relief from duty without pay would require exceptional circumstances as outlined in the provisions of the Police Act's police service regulations. I'm also guided by case law and decisions of the Law Enforcement Review Board. Essentially, I have to balance the need to ensure public confidence in the service, the need for effective operation of the service, and consider the employment rights of the officer. So question 7, what is the process for deciding whether an officer should be dismissed? Once again, dismissal of an officer from the service is only something that can be done through the Police Act proceedings. If an officer is guilty of misconduct, it is one of the possible sanctions available if warranted by the circumstance. Ultimately, what it comes down to is this. We can only police with the consent of the community. Maintaining the confidence of the community is imperative. We need to carefully balance the needs of the community with the operational needs of the service and the employment rights of the individual officers. Like I've said many times, we call on our officers to make very difficult decisions and sometimes very high risk and volatile situations. We must be ever mindful of this great responsibility to make these decisions that ultimately affect people's lives, their safety, and their feeling of safety. I want to assure you that we take this responsibility very seriously and will continue to work hard to serve this community with integrity and respect while being courageous in our actions and accountable to those we serve. I hope this has added some clarity to this very complex topic. Thank you for taking the time to listen.